Hey everybody, welcome back. Another video for you. In fact, I'm doing my second video in an hour because I recorded an entire video on the Patreon page and I realized that more has happened in the last 2 hours that has to be included. So I guess I'm going to do a second video on the same subject. But if you want to go to the in depth analysis, it's like a longer 20-minute type version. Go over to the Patreon, patreon.com/Eric Draitzer. There's a lot of videos there, including one on the subject that I'm going to touch on right now. I don't know if you've all been following the news from Russia in the last 48 hours or so. I'm recording here on the afternoon of April 22nd. It is Friday, and much has happened. So, if you have not been paying attention, we have what is now clearly some kind of a sabotage campaign going on in Russia against key Russian facilities. Now, I did not come lightly to that conclusion because the first example made me, sort of assume we were probably seeing some kind of an accident. But now that we've seen a number of these, I think it's very clear that there is some kind of force inside of Russia that is opposed to the war, opposed to Putin and Putin's regime, and is carrying out major acts of sabotage. Let's talk about what's happened. The first one that made major headlines yesterday, April 21st, was a Russian military facility, in fact, a research facility, caught on fire in the city of Tver, which is not too far from Moscow. This is the Second Central Research Institute. It's part of the Ministry of Defense. It is one of the main sort of nodes in Russia's military-industrial complex. It is, at least according to the Russians, allegedly a research facility that is specifically geared towards ballistic missiles, surface-to-air missiles, and S-400 air defense systems, Iskander missiles. These are the things that are not exactly produced and manufactured here, but the research is conducted in this facility. Now, it is interesting that this fire breaks out. Supposedly, it breaks out on the top floor. Pretty soon, if you see the videos, you can see it. It's spread to the entire building. The building is gutted. I believe 6 people confirmed dead, scores with injuries, presumably, at least according to the reports. The smoke was particularly bad and I guess black and blue. So one can imagine there are some kind of chemicals involved, whatever was housed inside of this building. So this is a huge story, right? And the first we hear about it yesterday morning, I mean, it's absolutely plausible that there could have been an accident. Now, this was originally what had come out from Russia, supposedly faulty wiring and whatever else, right? Plausible. Maybe we don't all believe that, but it's plausible, especially given what we heard about the Moskva, the Russian naval vessel that supposedly had an explosion on board, an accident, and then, accidentally sunk. And I don't know that we all believe that. I certainly do not. But here we have a Russian military research facility catches on fire. Who knows what the reason is for that? But wait, within a couple of hours, we have another report of the biggest chemical plant in Russia, also on fire. This is the Dmitrievsky chemical plant in the city of Kineshma, which is about 250 miles east of Moscow. So now, put this one in your mind. Okay, you have a research facility not far from Moscow. You have a chemical plant 250 miles away from Moscow. Both of them catch on fire almost at the same time. Okay, clearly, I think it's obvious that if we're assuming some kind of a sabotaging effort, that there are at least multiple parties, multiple teams, maybe coordinating with each other, maybe not, that are operating there. Okay, now one could say maybe you're jumping to conclusions here, right? I would say that if these things would not have happened on the same day in this way, it would be at least possible that this is just, accidents, coincidences, etc. But for these things to happen on the same day, I immediately now am pretty much, confident in saying that this is some kind of sabotage inside of Russia being carried out I would say most probably by Russians themselves. I think it's remote possibility that anyone from outside of Russia would have infiltrated into the country to do this. I think it is a very, very, very remote possibility that the Ukrainians could have carried something like this out, given the nature of the conflict that they're already involved in. I think it's also very, very unlikely that non Russian entity would have been able to carry this out. If you know anything about how the CIA and others operate inside of Russia, you know that there is not a lot of wiggle room for CIA agents, even suspected CIA agents, to carry something like this out, access to these facilities, etc. It seems the logical and probably maybe only reasonable conclusion that Russians have carried out these acts on their own against their government. Now, this is two facilities. I recorded a video on this. I already put it up for the patrons, for the subscribers. Okay. And then I look at my phone and what do I see? Just a couple of minutes later, just a couple of minutes after I finish recording the video, boom, there it is. So in the city of Korolyov, another fire today at the College of Aerospace Engineering and Technology. Reportedly, the Russian Rocket and Spacecraft Scientific Center, the main analytical center for Roscosmos, now up in flames as well. Okay, so now the Russian space program, you have the Russian chemicals industry, you have Russian military research, all three targeted within 24 hours of each other, all three destroyed by massive, massive fires. And now we have more reports. These are still unconfirmed, and it's hard to know whether this will be confirmed given the sort of monopoly that Putin's government has on media, on all media in Russia today. But we're beginning to hear reports that hopefully will be confirmed that military recruiting stations are also catching on fire in Russia. Okay. Now, supposedly, these military recruiting centers are not just places for recruitment, they are also repositories of a lot of important records, including enlistment records, recruitment records, and so forth. In other words, it seems yet another deliberate targeting of Russia's, war making apparatus. Okay, is this a direct action carried out by anti-war forces? Is this also some form of sabotage? We don't yet know. But the fact that these are all happening within 24, 48 hours of each other, I think makes it very clear that we are now witnessing the sort of the war coming home, as it were, for Russia and for Putin, that Putin is now going to be faced with the very distinct possibility that there are elements inside of Russia that are not simply displeased with the war, that are not simply opposing the war, but who are now actively involved in sabotaging Russia's war effort. Obviously, anyone doing that is facing the most severe kind of repression one can imagine. It's an extremely courageous act to do something like this, assuming that that's what's happened. Now, just very quickly, I know I'm trying to keep this as a short video, the longer video is available on the Patreon, but the military facility I already mentioned, Iskander missiles, S-400 air defense system. The chemical plant, the Dmitrievsky chemical plant, the largest manufacturer of solvents in Russia, the largest manufacturer of butyl acetate and industrial solvents. This goes directly to the paint and varnish industry, the rubber industry, the leather industry, food production industries. These are the key critical industries that are now going to be hit very hard by the loss of this chemical plant. So again, you have a disruption in Russia's military, supply chain. You have a disruption in Russia's food production supply chain, a disruption in the industrial products production supply chain. I think you can see what's happening here. This is now, I guess we could call it, a new front in the war in Russia now. So essentially, the war has come home to Russia. I think that we will probably need to just pay attention to this moving forward, because I think that we probably haven't seen the last of these kind of acts of sabotage. And I wanted to just get this out there as quickly as possible, and hopefully to keeping it to about 10 minutes. So again, if you want more detailed discussion of this and another issue, specifically Japan and how Japan fits into the Russia China equation in the Far East, go over to the Patreon, patreon.com/Eric Draitser. I know I plugged that like 4 times. That's kind of obnoxious. What do you want me to do? Have a great weekend.